So here's an idea on society and some other things. One interesting thing is that a very worldly, a very societal person, they always are outside, they're always doing things in businesses and shops and whatever. They're always they're outside working or whatever. They will look towards society to kind of answer their needs and desires and necessary things. For example, you basically need to get your hair cut, right? There are certain ways you can avoid it, if you set it up correctly or whatever. But most people, they get their hair cut, right? And they would go to a place that cuts hair. So again, this is an external societal place that cuts hair. You can learn to cut your own hair. It's not that hard. You will maybe go through a few really bad hair styles until you understand the basics, or else you could probably just buy a wig and like a little polystyrene head and practice hair cutting on that until you're confident enough. But yeah, that's one thing where you can learn to do that at home, and you can learn to do a lot of things at home. Now, usually you're not going to be as good as a professional, you're not going to have the right tools and everything, but you can do most things for fairly cheap. Some ideas is, food related. You can make your own jam. If you're a beer drinker, you can make your own beer or cider and even spirits. Excuse me. You can grow your own herbs and food and vegetables and all these things, and you do have to put some real work and time into these things, and some of the things you'll just suck at and others you'll be okay at. But what I'm saying is you can do a lot of things at home, and that there are mainly two, you can think of two kinds of people. There are home people and societal people. So people who like to be out and about, who like to do everything in society, and they feel comfortable there. They feel bored and maybe lonely at home, and there's just nothing for them to do, and they don't really know what to do. While other people, they love to be at home. They have their own little workshop in the garage, or they have their they have their computer and they're doing things on that, or their office and such in their kitchen, and they love to be home and they love to do that. It's similar with it's almost like food. I think you can make your own food at home, or you can order takeout. So there's these two different things. One of them another person does for you, another one you do for yourself, or just say, if you have a husband or wife, maybe they like to cook food, and you eat what they make, and that's quite nice. So again, those are the two different modes of society. I mean, two different modes of society and home. Now, in society, we have two different main phases, which is the feminine and the masculine, and we have two phases within those, the positive and negative of the masculine and negative and feminine. Which, if you look at those four political ideological charts where they have the four quadrants, you can see that you kind of four positive and negative things. Like you've got here, I'll try to explain it. You've got the positive negative, if you understand what I mean. So the negative side, but the positive variant is like communism, and then the positive side is like a right wing republic, kind of, so to speak. Like those are more the authoritarian ones, which is the positive, and the negative is the more technically, actually, authoritarianism is negative because it's more material, more restrictive. But whatever. If you look at the quadrant, it's upwards. So we'll just say that, and then we'll say for the positive negative, that's more libertarian, and then the negative is like hippie socialism, like that one. So you can think you've got the feminine and the masculine types of societies, and societies go through these phases where usually after really rough times they might go through some kind of like socialism or communism, while in more prosperous times they'll go through more like a libertarian capitalism. Yeah, because they have more resources, they have more power and ability and energy and all that to, you know, prosper and all that. Similarly, in the winter, you know, we have to go, we go more inside and we spend more time, assumably, around family, and you know, yeah, we kind of, it's you don't spend as much money, assumably, and while that during the summer you go outside more, and you know, it's the opposite. It's warm, it's expansive, all that kind of stuff. And then currently in society we're in a negative phase, so we're in more we're kind of in that negative phase right now, where it's not very expansive. Society's not expanding. It's actually quite difficult to just say expand by making a business, making money, you know, new ideas, new everything, new all this stuff. It's quite difficult to do all that stuff right now, actually. We're kind of just waiting out in the winter. We're just waiting for things to end. We're just waiting for the pain for society to get better and all that, I guess you could say. Anyway, then we have the idea of bad and good societies, or bad and good phases, which is one important thing, because you might think, well, now is a negative, we live in a feminine age, so women are more dominant and have more power. Inherently societally, women have more, they're related to it more, because, you know, women are society, men are the wild, the wilderness, the outside of society. So it's kind of, you know, it's a women's natural element. But currently, because we're in a feminine age, women have more power, you know, legally, all these things. While in potentially in like the 60s and 50s, you know, I didn't live there, of course, but assumingly men had more power, because it was a bit more, you know, business and government and lots of money and energy thrown around, and men are better at that stuff. They're better because that's a very external thing. It requires a lot of gambling, a lot of chance, a lot of you know, extreme work and all this kind of stuff that men are better at. And again, we will fold over into a masculine age and then back into a feminine age. But the main important thing is that currently we're in a bad age, and so it's a bad feminine age, because you can have a bad feminine age and a good feminine age. Similarly, you can have a bad and good masculine age. So what we ideally want to try to work on is fixing the bad to the good, because realistically there will be, you know, masculine and feminine ages, and if we can, it's better to balance the polarity, so we don't just keep endlessly swinging back and forth, or at least try to find some happy middle. But an important thing is to work on bettering society and bettering the world. I'll try to give you an example. One example of how the bad and the good works is that, just say if you have a lot of pollution, during a warmer time, the pollution will sublimate. It'll basically vaporize and poison the air, so to speak. And you've got these plastics and heavy metals and whatever rotting in some kind of pit, or people will burn it. You know, you have these like African villages where they take on loads of trash to make their money, and they like burn it all. They do all this shit to get all the metal and wires, and the air is just toxic there. Well, in a cold age, which would be a feminine age, it would start to leak into the river. Water would condense, you know, from all the metal and the plastics, and it would just leach into the earth and all that. So essentially the idea is we're trying to rid the poison, because the ideological poison, for example, you know, feminism is a dark kind of ideological force, while you know, some of like the MGTOW stuff is a dark ideological force as well. We have to rid the poison within this, and this rids it within people, so then these can be purified. So ideologies can be purified, education can be purified, the environment in the case of pollution, etc., all that can be purified. And there are many other different factors, the banks, for example, there's politics, there's all this kind of stuff. Anyway, another point is on rulership and kingship. So, how do you be a ruler? Well, that's an interesting thing. Usually, if you were ever picked to be like the leader of a group, or like usually in work, in school, and in like education or whatever, you would be picked usually because you were seemingly the most competent person, the person who could do the work. And usually the leader had to do all the work. That was just how it worked. Most people don't want to be leader, and they don't want to be, you just say if it's men, they don't want to be the alpha male. They'd rather be the beta male, the negatively charged, which alpha is positively charged. Do you think that's a person who's the leader? They think they're active, or the negative people can relax a little more. A lot of people, they do want to relax. It's just kind of human nature to be like that. So yeah, usually if you're the most competent person, you'll be chosen as leader. Similarly, if you're the most popular person, it's whatever radiance. If you have that radiance of the soul, then you'll be chosen as a leader. Now, kings originally, when a society would have a king, which would be the leader. If it was a little bit more relaxed, they'd just have the village elder, which would just be like the oldest, wisest guy, who'd know what to do when shit goes wrong, and you talk to him, to manage things. But and then it's the king. The king's like a wealthy person from a wealthy family. They grew up well, a lot of nutrients, a lot of training, education. They're probably fairly strong and intelligent, and it's Solar-esque, and it's also Saturnian, where you can think of it as related to Leo, the astrology sign, and Capricorn. And also the church and the state, when that was together, the church is more Sagittarius to some extent, that of wisdom and higher knowledge and all that. So you can kind of think government is like, the real role I see, at least, of the government is the management, is corporate management of the country, to say, okay, this is where the towns are, we have this official map, this is where the borders are, again, we have this official map, these are the different major families or major corporations and companies and groups in our country, this is the national, flag of the place. Basically, they do that. Government's not meant to be much more than that. And also legal or laws also relate to it. That would be a section of the government, laws. And usually when the church was involved in government, which I actually think was an alright thing. The only problem is that the Roman Empire, the Church of the Roman Empire, which ruled for the medieval ages, was corrupt for the most part, at least what we're going to know. So people say, it's bad, church and state is bad and all that stuff, and I guess it was when you had the Roman, the Holy Church. But the reason why I think that it's good to have the force of God, so to speak, or the force of pure spirituality, religion, whatever. Let's try to think of it in a good way, combined with the government, is that you have a government which is a seeking of higher ideals, essentially. The church says that, because it's based on morals, a lot of this stuff is based on morals. Rules are morals, so to speak. They're morals where if you don't follow them, you get fined or killed or thrown in a hole, So the church, or the holy force, because don't think of like the current church, don't think of the current government. I'm just saying in general, if you were to like run a place, this is what you could do. The church essentially would be there to say, okay, well, this is good, this is a good way to live your life. And then the government would say, okay, let's put that into our country, let's make that our culture, our country, etc. So things like, basic things, don't steal, don't kill, no adultery, no, I don't know, don't take other people's land. Like I said, don't steal. Wrath, handle your wrath and emotions, and don't be manipulative, and all these basically just moral. These are basic moral things. These would be the people in government. If you go to a tribal society, the shaman is the priest. The shaman is the and then the ruler is the tribal elder, or the tribe ruler. That is the government essentially. That's the guy who, if he says, or probably is a man. Usually this stuff is a man, because the man is is yang, which is upwards. The mother is yin. So the women had a different role of the priestess, or the great mother. They had their own kind of role of leadership, which was more yin. But anyway, so you have those two people there. Similarly, you would have the court magician, and the court magician would take on the role of the spiritual guidance, or the religious, spiritual, magical guidance. The court magician would understand calendars, understand how to read and write, would understand magic and science, herbalism and physics and all this stuff. And then the king would be very rich. Usually kings are very rich and powerful. Yellow and red, which is money and power. These are very important things, and kings need these. While the magician, the spiritualist, is blue, more blue and purple. These are colors of that, which is purple is kind of divine royalty, almost the power of God, and blue is the power of science and understanding and wisdom, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's just some ideas on kind of rulership and all that. And you can kind of see why our governments, I believe at least, are failing, because they're trying to take on a role that is more than they are. It's a bit like, just say, imagine if next day, and I think this will happen, you'll get Apple and McDonald's trying to open like hospitals, and I think they already have. I think McDonald's already has made hospitals. You'll get them opening hospitals and trying to probably like buying up a bunch of land and making like cities, so you live in like McDonaldsville. I'm sure in like 20 years, once America breaks away, and you've got Appleville and Googleville, which is like the liberal leftist techno places, and then you've got like old America, which will be like, I guess, Texas and more the red states, because they just won't want to live. They'll just want to cut California off the map. No one wants to. I mean, even the Californians probably don't even want to live there, to be completely honest. From what I hear. But yeah, so you'll have, like, what I'm trying to say is these corporations will eventually take on these higher roles because they want to, and because it's kind of in their interest. But government ultimately, I don't think, should be taking on too much of a higher role. All I want the government to do is to just say, okay, these are the laws, and if I want to file for a business or something like that, then it's there. It's just like a network of, like, okay, I want to look up another business. I don't want anything else. Obviously, the government, they should never be restricting flights and travel and restricting businesses the way they have the past 2 years. The past 2 years has really just shown us that they've gone crazy with power. And we haven't, but society kind of collectively, and a lot of bad people behind the scenes have created this giant parasitic entity, which the government is never meant to be and never should be. Because you can always think, at the end of the day, the king of a town, like in medieval days, was just a rich family, and you could kill that family. You could destroy them and kill them, and you can probably do that with the government nowadays. Not try to incite any violence or anything. But yeah, they were a family. Well, the same way as the shaman and the elder, they were probably strong. The shaman could probably cast fireballs or something, and the elder probably knew his way around a spear and a sword. But at the end of the day, it's just, we've gone from a single person to multiple people to a family or a group, and now to a giant, like a corporation, and then multiple corporations with globalism. So if you can kind of understand that, you can almost understand how, if you were just, say, you had your own powerful corporation, you could probably fight against the government and fucking take over a country if you want. I think maybe we'll see that in the future. We'll see like McDonald's buying some bloody state of a country or whatever. Who knows? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And of course, check the links down in the description. Feel free to email me or comment and donate. And of course, if you want to buy anything, check my Gumroad and Fiverr. I've got lots of interesting stuff there that you can get if you're interested in kind of occultic stuff or artistic stuff. And with that, have a nice day.